Hi, I'm Fran Brill, and you're watching a podcast where nostalgia comes alive. It's Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Roll it.
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Join Jake and his friends on a journey through pop culture of the past, where they interview professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and so much more. Who will they be chatting with today? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Happy to be with us. Thank you for joining. As always, I'm your host, Jake Duffenbach. And today, as always, our co-host, Chris Bixby. How's it going, my friend?
Doing good. Hello, everybody. How are you, Jake?
Doing great, as always, Chris. Thank you for asking.
Yes, we had a wonderful interview for you folks. Someone that generations of people will definitely know. Let's not waste any more
Of
time.
course.
Jake, why don't you tell everyone a bit about who we spoke with today?
Thank you very much, Chris. Today's guest we have in this episode is Sonia Manzano. She's an actress, creator, writer, author, and speaker. Most of you may know her best as one of the human cast on Sesame Street, Maria Rodriguez. In addition to Sesame Street, she got to episodes, and recently she got to create a PBS series, Almas Way, and a lot more that we'll cover throughout this chat. So not waste y'all's time, so let's get to our chat with Sonia. Enjoy. See you then. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Today we have with us is Sonia Manzano. Welcome. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes,
Likewise, happy to
delighted
have
to
you
have you
here.
here.
Absolutely indeed. So to start this off, we know who you are, but for those who don't, could you tell our audience a bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I am Sonia Manzano. I am a New Yorican from the South Bronx, and most people know me as Maria on Sesame Street, a role that I played for over 44 years with great pleasure. And currently, I know this is a nostalgia show, but I can't help throwing in what I'm doing now. I've created a show called Alma's Way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Great
Uh-huh.
show.
Thank you. You see
Of
the
course. Oh,
poster
well,
there you
that's
go. Yeah.
cool.
with my ring light in it. But so that's my latest show, and we are doing our third season. So I'm very excited about that. I didn't expect to work in television anymore after leaving Sesame Street in 2015. But PBS asked me to, and I came up with Alma's Way.
Nice,
That's
nice.
great. Looking forward for more of that, of course.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So before, getting into acting and everything, what was your childhood like and how did you grow up?
Well, as I said, I grew up in the South Bronx. Parents who had come from Puerto Rico right after World War II. There was a lot of industry going on in New York City, and a lot of Puerto Ricans were invited to come to fill those jobs. My mother was a seamstress, and my father was a laborer. He used to put tar on roofs,
Hmm.
and that was his work. But we were very poor. It was difficult to make ends meet. My parents struggled with the system, with speaking English, but they struggled with each other. They lived in my household was ruled by domestic violence. And so I witnessed that growing up, and I found salvation and relief watching television. I always loved television, and when things would get too crazy around me, I would go into my head, into my own fantasies, which is kind of what inspired Alma's Way, that you can go into your own head and have your own dreams, and that would be your refuge for you. And also that I watched a lot of television, and I loved the medium of television.
Nice.
That's great. Um, was acting always something you always want to pursue as a career?
I think more storytelling now that I'm the age that I am and I can look back and analyze what it was that kept me going. I think it was, and of course, acting involves storytelling because you're using yourself as the vehicle to tell a tale. I used to watch The Little Rascals. These are old television shows. Uh,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and they used to always put on shows in a barn or something. And I used to think, oh, that what a wonderful thing to do. And so I always loved musicals. There was something in those days called the TV Guide, and you could look
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
all
uh-huh.
what was going on, and they would say drama, and then war, musicals, yes, that's I'm tuned into a musical right away. I like the girls singing, so I d- I did love it, but I didn't think I had a place in it because I didn't see anybody like me being in those positions. And of course, as you know, if you don't see people like you in those jobs, you don't see how you can fit into it. I did come from a musical family, even though my parents were struggling with each other, they always found time to make music. And my relatives would get together every Friday night and they would bring guitars. And while they talked about how terrible the poverty in Puerto Rico was that they escaped af right after World War II, they would sing songs about how beautiful the island was, and I was most proud of them because they introduced me to that culture, to my culture that they had brought over with them. So I always loved theater. They would take me also to movies, Mexican movies, and I would see Spanish actresses, Sarita Montiel and Maria Félix, and I would love those kind of great cowboy stories of the Mexican cinema. But still, I didn't see myself in that position in the United States until I saw West Side Story, the first one, the good one. Uh,
Okay.
and
Nice.
yes, and that was so inspiring to me.
Nice.
That's one that's lovely.
Yeah, so of course you're known by many for portraying the role of Maria Rodriguez on Sesame Street for, as you said, 44 years. Can you talk about how working for them kind of came about in the overall audition process?
Well, I wish it was a glamorous story, but um, I was in a show called Godspell. I
Hmm.
was in the original story of
Right.
the show Godspell. And I have to interrupt you. It says this meeting is being recorded and an okay. Do I have to click on that?
Uh, yeah, if you don't want that to be on the screen, just click OK.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
Yeah.
So, getting back to my tale of how I got cast on Sesame Street, I was in a show called Godspell. I was in the original company of that. We did that show at Carnegie Mellon University, and it came to New York, and it was a big hit. And at that time, 1969, society was, you know, in America was in an upheaval. The civil rights movement was happening. Uh, it was very exciting. Inclusivity was in the air. Women wanted to join the workforce for the first time. I know for for people your age, it sounds ridiculous, but really at that time it was a new and a daring thought about having people of color on television and using television to teach. So Joan Gans Cooney did say uh, these underserved children should learn to read because people who run the world can read. And the target audience was African American children in what was then called the inner cities. Now, this was once again the 1960s, hippies, everything was changing. You didn't trust anybody over 35 because it's a very youth-driven culture. So they created the show, and some activists on the West Coast thought that they should have people that the Latino audience can relate to or have a connection with. So Sesame Street said, sure, let's cast a Latina. So here I am doing Godspell. This is a whole new world for me. And I get a call to audition for Sesame Street. And I always say the most important things in life happen when you least expect it. And so I went to the audition. There wasn't a lot of people auditioning. There weren't a lot of actresses, Latinx actresses on the scene. I talked to one guy, John Stone. In those days, one person could make a decision for broadcast or anything. Now you need like a committee to make a decision about what color ink to use on a contract. And
Yeah.
it was his vision. And I got cast as Maria on Sesame Street. Now, I was very nervous about it. I remember I had to make a decision between sticking with Godspell and doing the Godspell movie or sticking with Sesame Street. I couldn't do both. And I left it up to my agent to make the decision for me. And thank goodness he made the decision that he thought I should stick with
Absolutely.
Sesame Street.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I'm kind of curious, of course, there's so many, Muppets that you got to, to work with on Sesame. Do you have some of your favorites, Sesame Muppets you got to work with?
I think absolutely, hands down, my favorite is Oscar the Grouch.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, Carol.
Yeah,
Such a
Carol.
sweet man.
Yes, he's such a sweet man. And I think that you probably know that he also played Big Bird and he
Oh
played
yeah.
Oscar
Mm-hmm.
the Grouch. And they were like two disparate parts of his personality.
Right.
But they were both Carol Spinney, I can assure you about that. And so he was a different person when he had the puppet of Oscar on his hand. And I just thought he was hilarious. He had a deep voice that was, you know, different than most of the Muppets. He was either 8 or 38. I mean, he was nuanced and he could be old. And I thought that was interesting. When I became a writer for the show, he was the
Yeah.
most interesting to write for because he always provided conflict. So in order to write a good bit, you have to have some
Right.
conflict or you have nothing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
to say, you know, let's say the alphabet. No, I won't. What do you mean you don't want to say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and you know where that's going.
Yeah.
I could do that with him easily. And I thought he was a very nuanced character. Of course, I loved Richard Hunt's characters too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Forgetful Jones,
Yes. Yeah.
Forgetful Jones, and was he embraced these characters with his whole personality. He could take anything and make it exciting. Gladys the cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Proud,
Uh-huh.
proud to be a cow, and so that was um, uh, Richard Hunt. I loved him too. I loved Jerry Nelson, who played the count,
Yeah.
and he played
Count and Harry and
yes, and Sherlock Hemlock, and
mhm.
the Fat Blue, which was a fat blue puppet who
Right. Yeah.
always
Yeah,
tormented.
yeah, Mr. Johnson, yeah.
Yeah.
Johnson, who was always tormented by Grover at the restaurant.
Yes.
And I loved him playing the Snuffleupagus.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
Marty.
yeah, now Marty plays him, but Martin Robinson. But when
Brian
Jerry
Taylor.
Nelson played him, he was older, and
Right.
I think that
Hmm.
was what you heard in his voice was kind of depth of age that Snuffleupagus had that I found intriguing.
Yeah, and it was during the time where nobody really knew Snuffy existed because everyone thought, Big Bird was making him up and so
Right.
they
Yeah,
did.
before everyone, before like Big Bird finally like, introduced Snuffy to everyone, it's kind of more
Yeah.
imaginary friend first, and then was that.
Right, right. So we killed that joke as long as we could, where we were kind of missing him, and then I believed him, but I kept missing seeing him, and it was a great gag because how could you miss something that big
Yeah,
for so
right.
long was the gag, and that was just so the Muppets are terrific. I always found Jim Henson to be enigmatic, kind of very hard to read, uh, kind in a mischievous way. And I thought he was brilliant in when they would have a rehearsal. He he didn't like the way it went. He would say, "I think we can do better," and it was such a much more positive way than saying that was awful or why did you do it?
Right.
Yeah.
Just kind of say, I think we, including himself in the general um, execution of whatever they were doing.
Nice.
Right.
Nice. So now with so many episodes and storylines on this show, are there any that stick out as some of your favorites?
Well, sure, the ones I starred in. But first I'll start with the ones I didn't star in. And of course, it's the Goodbye, Mr. Hooper episode
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah.
was one of the really, as you know, or maybe your audience might not, may or may not know, it was how we explained Will Lee's passing.
Yeah.
Will Lee
Right. Yeah.
played Mr. Hooper,
Such a great actor.
passed away, and we had to decide how we were gonna share that with the audience, and people may
Yeah.
but oh, let's just get another actor. You know how actors are replaced.
Right.
Or let's say he went on vacation, or let's say he retired. And Dulcie Singer said, well, if we're known for being truthful about life, why would we not be truthful about death? Death is not man-made. There's no opinion. I mean, it just is. Just like being born happens.
Right.
Oh. So she prevailed, and that's when I wasn't a writer for this show yet. I thought, wow, this is really a great organization to handle this the way it did. So
Yeah.
uh, that was one of my favorite episodes. And when I when I fell in love and got married in real life, that was depicted on the show as well.
Yeah, 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 Maria and Louise, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we were and that happened because in real life I was going to have a baby and they wanted to incorporate it in the show. So we were like the first reality show type of show because
Right. Yeah.
really
I can see that.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really happening. And so many people really thought that Emilio and I were married. Uh, um, I know I tell this story a million times. The woman who stopped us and said, oh, thank you for showing real love on Sesame Street. I'm so happy that my family could see real love.
Oh,
And I
That's
told her
awesome.
we weren't really married, and she said, well, as long as you really love each other. So she was determined to believe that we were a couple, no matter what.
That's
that's
awesome.
so great. I mean, there's so many, like the hurricane and the birth of Gabby and like the
Yes,
and some of the home videos. They
yeah.
kind of like heavily involve like where Elmo like visits the firehouse and like Big Bird
Oh,
gets lost. Where
oh,
Big Bird and Maria like just don't know where you guys we both are at the mall for
yeah,
Snuffy's birthday. And
yes.
one time the Big Bird goes to the hospital. There's
I
so
wrote
many.
that. I wrote that.
Oh, okay.
I wrote Big
That's
Bird
cool.
Goes to the Hospital, and I love the Big Bird Gets Lost because that song was so funny when Carol sings, Maria, Maria, I've just lost my best friend, Maria. And it's
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
kind of a tongue
Yeah.
in wink
yeah.
side story. So that's that, that was fine.
So now, of course, Maria, also got to sing a lot on the show. Do you have any like favorite songs you got to sing on Sesame?
Guess my most favorite song is Sing.
Yeah.
It's
Uh-huh.
it's such a profound song in its simplicity. It's so joyful. It includes everyone somehow. It's a great song. Um, I loved Ernie singing about living on the moon.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So a
Yeah.
thoughtful
Such a
song.
classic.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not easy being green is a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful song. I thought that I walked into the studio and there was Lena Horne singing this song, and I said, "Oh my goodness, what is this song about?" And it's very profound, and it was about whatever the listener's level of understanding about the world. That's what the song was about. So I loved that
Oh
open
yeah.
end of 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 respecting children and uh and assuming that they are sophisticated enough to embrace a song like that. And of course, I loved Hola, which is a song that I wrote where I'm dressed up as Ginger Rogers and Emilio's dressed up as Fred Astaire.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, yeah. That's a
Uh-huh.
wonderful song. Yeah.
Do that number. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's the name of that song?
What's the name of that song? A
The
Sam.
people in your neighborhood and the one song that you or Maria and Gina got to do together, The Word is No.
There's no, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a funny one.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, there's so many great tracks on
Yeah,
Sesame Street, like all these years. It's
yeah.
it's
It's funny,
it's so
we're all
great.
still friends, the cast, the ones left.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
Right.
know,
I mean, Sesame Street is like a full-on family, you
Emily.
know?
So we still, I see Allison and
She's great.
Yeah, she's
She's
wonderful.
wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So now, of course, on the show, Maria was married to Luis, played by the late and great Emilio Delgado. Can you share any of your fondest memories from, I guess, just overall knowing Emilio?
He had a great capacity of listening, and uh when you spoke to him, you were the only person in the room. I don't know if you've had the experience of speaking to someone who's constantly looking over your shoulder to see if there's someone else they'd rather be talking to. He had a wonderful way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the world when you were chatting with him. He had a big heart and a terrific sense of humor. And he was very strong, a very kind of manly man, of the old school manly guys, but um, very gentle and uh, and very poetic. We had a lot of laughs. Uh, I would come on the show, and since the producer said to me I should just be myself, I should speak Spanish as I spoke it at home. I would throw in a lot of Spanglish, which is a little English and Spanish, or combining the languages on certain words. And one time I was challenged. Somebody said to me, "That's not a real word." And I asked Emilio, who had a stronger grasp of Spanish, if he agreed with them that it wasn't a real word. And he said, "I'm sorry, mijita, but I don't know what you're saying either." And it was a wonderful, funny moment that kind of taught me a lesson. I thought, oh, it's right. I shouldn't speak New York Spanish because some kid in Miami might not know what I mean, or in the West Coast of Mexican descent might not know. So I thank Emilio for that kind
Yeah,
of direction.
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Rest his soul. relatable, like for what how he is as a person, and now Sesame Street, like he's also a singer, and and all
Yeah,
that,
he used to, he used to tune
such
his
a
guitar
talented
and
guy.
he'd say, dang, 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 dang. Then he'd say, good enough for jazz.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's great. So now, I know it might be kind of like a difficult question like to answer, but of course, Sesame Street they also, they're featured, a lot of celebrity guests that got to be on the show. Is there any like favorite celebrity guests you got to work with?
Of course, there's been so many. I loved Tony Bennett
Oh yeah, yeah.
because
Yeah.
they were the celebrities that were famous when I was born. Ray Charles,
Right, of
Yes.
course.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Of
Stevie
course.
Wonder. Stevie
Yeah.
Wonder
Hmm.
was like famous when I was a little kid. And I remember when Stevie Wonder came on the show and he sang a song, and it was just so wild. It was everybody was on the same page. Young people, old people, white people, black people, everybody was just rocking the Stevie Wonder, and we were all one. Gladys Knight and the Pips
Hmm.
were fabulous on the show. Patti LaBelle
Oh
comes
Of
yeah.
course.
comes on the
Yeah.
show all the time, still does Sesame Street specials, and
Hmm.
and so on and so forth. And I think I kind of had the sense it was time for me to retire from the show when I didn't recognize the celebrities.
Right. They were more from like, you
They were,
From kind of our generation more
yes,
yeah.
than,
your generation,
now.
and this is I'll even say this. Uh, One time I walked into the studio and there was this absolutely enchanting, beautiful girl playing the piano. And she filled the room with her beauty and talent. And then she came up to me and she said, "Oh, Maria, I've been watching Sesame Street for so long, and you're one of my favorite characters." I said, "Thank you very much." When she turned away, I asked somebody, "Who is that beautiful singer?" And it was Alicia Keys.
Oh my
Oh, that's awesome.
goodness. Wow.
Wow.
And
That's so cool.
now she wasn't as famous as she is now. I don't want you to think
Right.
I'm
Right.
totally in the dark, but she was
Yeah.
just coming up at that time. And uh, and so that was like, that's interesting. Another time I was in my dressing room and I was watching the monitor, and there was this wonderful singer, handsome, funny hat on, gorgeous singer. And I called my daughter and I said, "Who is that guy named Bruno Mars?"
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Oh, wow.
And she said,
That's
"Oh,
awesome.
mommy's, really hot and up and coming, and half Puerto Rican, I might add."
Hmm.
So
Uh,
Right.
that was very interesting. So that's kind of an aside where I thought, it's time for me to retire from Sesame Street if I don't know the current crop of celebrities coming in.
right.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
now, one of the specials Maria appeared in was the Christmas special, Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. What was it like getting to work on that?
That was really uh I thought it was such a beautiful show with so many private little moments. Um, I love that there's a moment between Bob and Will Lee, Mr. Hooper, and
Yeah.
Bob
Oh,
wishes him a
Bob,
happy
yeah.
Hanukkah.
Yeah.
That was kind of an inclusive thing. I love that fe uh, the Feliz Navidad was sung in Spanish
Yeah.
uh, with
Classic track.
for the ice skating moment.
Yep.
I love that when Bob is singing a song for Linda and they're signing the song, he signs something to her very personal. I think he says, "I love you," or something like that. And I just thought that was very sophisticated. plus the premise was so real. How do kids in the city imagine Santa Claus coming to visit them? And it really uh, hit a true note for me because I lived in the city. I lived in a tenement building, and everything about Santa Claus visiting was that he came down a chimney. I've never even saw somebody with a fireplace. Still, Santa Claus managed to get to my house, and the special brought back memories to me that I used to say and in school, every story they read to you was Santa Claus came down the chimney. They didn't care that nobody that was listening to the story never saw a chimney or a fireplace. But anyway, I
Right.
remember that I used to think our tree was right by the radiator in front of a window by a shaft. And I used to think to myself, Santa Claus magically breaks the window, leaves the presents, and magically leaves and closes the window again. I mean, I justified it. And I think that special touched upon the fantasies and imaginings of children. Because there's that little segment where Kermit asks kids, how do they think Santa Claus gets through? And they give their very hilarious answers.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Such a wonderful special indeed. So now but you also got to work on the two Sesame Street films, both which is Follow That Bird and The Adventures of Elmo and Grouchland. What was it kind of like, you kind of be involved in such a feature films with Sesame?
I I we worked in the studio very quickly. One director would always say when we went over a scene, okay, that was the rehearsal, that was the dress rehearsal, and that was the taping. We worked very fast. And the movie was really slow to shoot it. And I kept saying, why is this taking so long? We do this so quickly in the studio. Well, movies are different than obviously than
Episodes, yeah.
television.
Home
And
videos, yeah.
it was like, uh um and I think that so that was my first impression about being in a movie. And then when I saw the finished product, um, and the sadness that they turned Big Bird blue and put him in a cage, I don't think you
Yeah.
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 can't do that.
And Big Bird has to jump to the car with Gordon.
Yes,
I love Roscoe.
yes, you can't do that today. I mean, no one would allow you to have that kind of
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
oh,
kind of different time to do something
yes,
like that. Yeah.
scared. Oh, we can't do this.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I kind of got in right under the wire when you could do. Tony Geis and Judy Freudberg wrote that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it was very, very wrenching. And if you watch it today, it still holds up. And that's the
Yes.
testament to a good movie or a good book or a good anything, that it has lasting power.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, great
Absolutely.
films.
So now, in addition to acting on Sesame Street, of course, we've talked about, writing for Sesame Street. Do you have any favorite episodes that you wrote?
Oh, yes, I think one of my favorite ones was the one where Maria's very dark-skinned cousin comes to visit, and
Okay.
Telly doesn't recognize him as her cousin because they have different tones.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wanted
Uh-huh.
to illustrate that Puerto Ricans in the same family, you can have a very light-skinned relative and a very dark-skinned relative. And I was highlighting that by writing that script where I say to Telly, when my cousin comes, tell him I'll be right back. And, he doesn't. And I said, why didn't you tell me? And he says, he doesn't look like you. How can he be your cousin? Giving me the opportunity to explain uh, the curriculum. So I enjoyed writing that. as I said, I enjoyed writing the song Hola.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I also would write scenes that didn't include Muppets, which was like, what are you doing? Every scene has to have a Muppet in it, and
Right.
I think that I wrote one that didn't have a puppet in it because I really thought the people were just as important. And it was a scene about surprising Emilio with his on his birthday, and the cast is trying to surprise him. So
Yeah, like where Telly like celebrates Oscar's birthday
yeah,
and Marie
yeah,
and Louise like seventh anniversary. There's so many wonderful
right. We've
episodes
done a
they got
lot
to
of
do it.
those. Right, right. And I wrote
Yeah,
a lot of the marriage um sequences when she goes to
right.
the hospital, when Maria goes to the hospital to have her baby. I really wanted it
Yeah.
Oscar and the sloppy jalopy to save the day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
nice.
Of course, there are times that you got to be, appear in a Macy's parade, a lot of most of the
Oh,
time for your time
yeah,
in
it was
Sesame.
so, yes, it was appearing in the Macy's Day Parade was so easy in those days. Um, you could wait until the parade went by your house and join. I mean, it was that casual. But since 9/11, we have to go through so much security
Yeah.
that you really have to you have to get up really, really early to go through that. Uh,
Yeah.
it wasn't
Right.
much fun later as it was in the beginning years.
Right.
Gotcha. Gotcha. It's such a wonderful event. We're always, always looking forward to every Thanksgiving. So, and seeing Sesame Street is one of the best parts of the whole
Yeah,
parade.
yeah.
It's so great.
I
Uh,
wonder what they'll do this year.
Yeah, that would be
yeah.
interesting, I wonder.
Yeah. See what's gonna happen. We're gonna see later in the month. So now, now in 2015, you published a memoir, "Becoming Maria: uh, Love and
Chaos.
Chaos.
yeah, chaos." Sorry about that. Thank you. In the South Bronx. So, what kind of gave you the idea to want to tell your life story in book, in such a book form?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was raised in a household that was tumultuous and ruled by domestic violence, and I became to an age where I kind of wanted to make sense of that, and I find that writing is a great way for you to analyze your feelings because you put them outside yourself and you can analyze them. And my father and I were estranged, and I wanted to kind of put some closure on that. And deciding to write the memoir forced me to see him and have a conversation with him about uh, our life and what I thought it was and what he thought it was. And I wanted to do that before he passed on or I got any older. And that's why it inspired me to write the book.
Nice,
That's
nice.
wonderful.
Nice. So moving on from Sesame Street, I guess one of your more adult roles was in Law and Order SVU. What was that like?
Oh yes, it's Judge Gloria Pepitone. It was
Yep.
the name, and I was a judge on that. And I think that it was a very well, the production runs like a well-oiled machine because they've been in production for so long. Just like Sesame Street was in production for so long. It's the same cameraman, it's the same sound guys, it's the same makeup artists. I mean, it was like that. Things went really smoothly. So I really appreciated that. They were like a family. I could tell that that group was like a family that had been working together for so long on this product. And I liked the episode I played where Marissa Haggerty was the director. And I have to admit that I was cheating. I had my lines on my on the desk. I had the script in front of me so I could cheat on my lines. And she came up to me. She said, "I can see you cheating on your lines, so hide your script.
Oh, wow.
Viewer doesn't see it." That was wonderful. And then one episode I remember. very well was because David Diggs was in it, who
Oh,
played
nice.
Jefferson in Hamilton.
Oh, that's cool.
And Anthony Ramos was in it, who played the young son in Hamilton. And they were both in the episode, and David Diggs played the lawyer. And he's very tall and gangly, and he moves like a beautiful marionette. And I was so engrossed in watching him move from the table to the jury box that I forgot my lines because all I could do was watch how beautiful his movement was, David Diggs.
Nice.
Oh, David Diggs, yeah, yeah, it's great.
Mhm.
So now, in voiceover, you're known for voicing Rosa Casagrande in Nickelodeon series, The Loud House, and spin-off, The Casagrandes. What's it like getting to work on those?
Yeah, well, that's uh, I'm glad I was working on that before Alma's Way because I got a little sense of how people work on an animated series. And at first I couldn't believe it was I guess maybe it was COVID was happening and they said you can record at home. And I said, oh, no, I don't have a recording studio. I can't record at home. And they said, yes, you can. We'll walk you through it. And I'm like technology inept. And they walked me through it. And I set up a little in my closet. I put towels around me and I did what they said. And they sent me a microphone and a computer. And voila, we were able to do a show. So I took that knowledge with me to when we were doing Alma's Way. Um, and a lot of the actors in Alma's Way were also couldn't go to the recording studio and were recording under their beds or in their closets or et cetera, et cetera. So that was fun playing that outlandish broad character.
Nice. So before we get to the last
That's great.
question here, now with Alma's Way, what has it been like getting to come back to PBS creating this new show?
Well, I wouldn't have come back to PBS if I hadn't been asked. I felt who was gonna Sesame Street is a tough act to follow. So I
Yeah.
never would have tried to do a children's
Yeah,
show on my own without an invitation. So when PBS asked me to do it, I thought, well, I'll come back to PBS and there's much more people involved than there was when I started Sesame Street on a particular project. You need more approval
right.
from a lot more people. Um, and I'm glad that they left the mission of the show up to me. And the mission of
Yeah.
the show is that everybody has a brain and everybody can think things through. I noticed a lot of kids who were underserved and couldn't pass tests or couldn't memorize were considered not smart. And they believed that they weren't smart. And I want to tell kids, no, everybody has a brain and you could all use it as you will. So I'm glad they left the mission of the show to me, and I'm glad to revisit, kind of pay tribute to my family.
That's
A lot of
great.
the characters in the show are based on characters I knew as a kid.
It's awesome.
That's wonderful. Looking forward what's coming up next more with the show and more what's going to happen with you down the line.
Yes,
So
yes.
since we're now going to a last question, we usually ask every guest, Chris.
Yes. So this podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. When you think of nostalgia, what do you think of, or how would you define nostalgia?
I guess nostalgia is a yearning for things past. And if I'm going to be nostalgic about anything, I would say the early I Love Lucy shows
Right, yeah.
or
Right, uh-huh.
the Honeymooners, though it did disturb me that he yelled at her so much. I did, or the Show of Shows, the golden years of television, I guess, with Sid Caesar and Emma Jean Coca and all of those celebrities that my mother would just howl laughing at, that we really did enjoy.
Nice, great words to end on. Well, Sonia, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Glad we were able to make it happen. This was a blast.
Okay, great.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and good luck to your future interviews.
Thank
too.
you.
All righty.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Means a lot. Thanks again, and looking forward what's coming up next.
Yes. Yes,
Thank
enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, you too. Bye.
Bye.
You too. Thank you again. Take care. Bye.
Bye. And it's goodbye from us as well. We absolutely enjoyed our time speaking with the great Sonia Manzano. Links to her website and social media will be in the description down below for anyone who wants to connect with her or check out her work. But it's goodbye from us as well. Keep on the lookout for more wonderful interviews coming your way. And as always, what do we say, Jake?
Keep nostalgia alive. Take care, everyone. See you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode. Be sure to follow Jake and the Happy Nostalgia team on social media, check out our website, and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.